So I will take it that you are all happy for this to be ratified. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. I think that's unanimous. Next item of the agenda is 6.3, the Town Council budget for the year 2026 to 2027 to set the Town Council's annual budget for the whole financial year. This is pages 17 to 22 in your pack. Councillor Ely or RFO is who's going to lead?
Can I just start, Chair, please? Just to note that obviously the draft budget has been on the agenda of many of the committees in the last few months. We have had comments from council members and they have been taken account of within this budget. I think probably the Chair of Finance and Governance should say something.
Right. It is primarily the same as before. There have been a few technical changes, but they are very, very minor. And the net outcome is that the budget is now £1.425407 million. The precept, that leads to a precept, but that's the next item on the agenda. I mentioned last time that the major request was from Environment Committee, and Terry, you got your wish. The well-being estimate was increased, and what wasn't necessary to reduce that to get within budget. So that the recommendation to you, Chair, through you, Chair, is that the budget as it's presented is accepted.
So I would ask councillors to note that every councillor is responsible for finances, not just the Finance and Governance Committee. So please do use this as an opportunity to ask any questions or say anything about the budget before we go to the vote. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, I think you've done a good enough job in explaining it, maybe. So we will go to the vote. I think I'll propose that the budget is accepted. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour of accepting the budget? Any abstentions? Any against? No, that is carried unanimously. We will now go to 6.5, pages 23 to 24 in your pack. That's to set the precepts for the year and to authorise officers to submit the preset demand to the billing authority. Is this something you wanted to talk about?
Okay. All right.
No, I'll let the Chair.
So, given the budget, that gives a precept of £216.73, which is a percentage rise of 4.59%. That was disclosed at your last meeting, and that's remained the same. So my recommendation, the recommendation from the committee, is that the precept is accepted as recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Any comments or questions from members around the precept? No, we will go to the vote then. So I propose that we set the precept for the year at £216.73, which is an increase in our precept of 4.59%, and that we authorise officers to submit the precept demand to the billing authority. Do I have a seconder? Take it your second. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 6.5, medium-term financial plan. To note the implications of previous decisions on the Town Council's medium-term financial plan. Going back to the finance team.
Yes, I'll have a few words with it about this. So obviously we agreed a couple of years ago that we would prepare this medium-term 5-year financial plan. Obviously, when we look ahead to inflation rates, anticipated grant funding, anticipate tax base. We also include elements for our rolling capital programme, and you'll note on page 2 that we're anticipating putting money aside for the provision or the planning and the provision of car parking facilities, specifically Sycamore House and Hall. And obviously we've allocated funds for the replacement of Sycamore House roof. So you know, kind of as our strategic plan, we're trying to think ahead. And obviously making sure our reserves are within the statutory requirements. That's it.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add?
No.
No. Good. Okay.
Any easy questions I'll answer. Any difficult ones, Alison will.
Thank you. So members happy to note the previous decisions and the impact on the medium-term financial plan. Everybody agreed? Yes? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Item 7, assertion 10, to note the town council's obligations under the new assertion 10 included in the annual governance return, also known as the AGAR, and to be satisfied that all appropriate action has been taken. There is a report at pages 31 to 32 in your pack. Is there something you wanted to say about this, Alison?
Yes,
it's for me to speak.
Oh, is
I
it?
think it's my report.
Sorry.
I do know about assertion 10, but
Yeah, I think that this is a new assertion on the AGAR this year, but it doesn't really make a huge difference to the town council in the sense that for many years previously, at your annual meeting, you have reviewed all your freedom of information and data protection policies, and there's an obligation on the council and the you know, to be reviewing that at all times. So the assertion 10 data requirement has not really made a huge difference, but it is something that everybody needs to be aware of. And since as with the budget, it's the whole council who have to be responsible for signing off the AGAR, it's important that everybody understands. So it'll be gone through again under Alison's expert guidance at the next Finance and Governance Committee, when she'll go through all the items that need to be satisfied in order to ensure we're compliant with assertion 10. But if it's no good leaving it to the last minute. If councillors have got any questions about this, it's important to ask about them now.
I just a clarification. I think it's really good, and we've got plenty of time to get the final submission in, and I read through it. In terms of trust funds, where it says that, just to confirm that actually we're a custodian of Coronation Hall?
Yes.
We're not a trustee of that at all?
No, we're not a trustee.
Brilliant,
no,
thank you.
No,
just clarification.
no.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? So is that just for noting?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
All members happy to note, is that agreed? Thank you. Next item is 7.2, calendar of meetings for 2026-2027. Did somebody want to speak to this?
This just follows the same pattern as it had this year, same committee structure. So it's just, do you agree with it? Do you approve it for the following year?
Any members got any questions or comments in relation to the schedule of meetings? No, I will take that you are happy to accept those. So it says to approve, so I believe we need a vote. I will propose that we accept or approve the calendar of meetings. Seconder. Thank you. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Next item is 7.3, Councillor Blackman's resignation from the Finance and Governance Committee, and to consider election to the Community and Environment Committee. Councillor Blackman, is there anything you want to say in relation to this?
You said it all, thank you.
No, at the moment, looking at the current membership of the Community Environment Committee, it is at full capacity. So we've got 12 members in there at the moment. That might change, but don't know what you want to do about that in terms of waiting until May to elect someone onto that committee when we can change the structure in terms of membership, or you want to look at changing the membership numbers now.
Okay, so it's a matter for members. So firstly, I suppose the question to you, Councillor Blackman, is would you want the councillors to consider you going onto that committee before the annual meeting in May?
If that's possible, yes, but.
Okay, so our members are members happy to consider upping the number of that particular committee, the community and?
I think we've only got a couple of months left. I think we need to wait till the new
So we've got, so we've got one meeting next month. That's pretty much.
Yeah, so there's only one meeting, so I
Okay.
think we're better off waiting until the re-election.
So I need a proposal from somebody.
I propose that.
If I could make an observation, and that's all it is, it's an observation. I mean, we go through a process to elect people to committees at the annual meeting, and the intention is that they'll remain on those committees for the course of the year, and that is generally considered to be good practice. They stay on that committee for the end of the year. Now, I appreciate that sometimes councillors, something will happen that mean that they can't attend as many meetings, or a space becomes available on the committee that they're wanting to be on. But it leaves the Finance and Governance Committee, which is a really important committee, with fewer members than it ought to have if people leave it mid-year. So just an observation would be to consider carefully at the next annual meeting which committees you wish to be on, and to make sure that you put in your submission before the annual meeting. We ask all members well in advance, and I'm sure John will be doing the same this year.
Yeah.
And think about it carefully, because it really matters, the committee membership and attendance at committee meetings, if we're going to have a successful governance structure.
Could I ask you to let me know, and you probably haven't got it to hand, but even just an estimate, how many finance committee meetings have we got now between now and the annual
I
meeting?
think we've just.
And how many community meetings?
So we've got, so in February, we've got a finance and community.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's it, next one's
Is
in
there one in
April.
April?
Well, April is the,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
well,
it's
April,
like
yeah,
consider
so
that.
there's one, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the financial, yes, 7th of April,
Two.
two.
Yeah.
I think there was a proposal, is it seconded?
There's only one meeting, just we'll wait till May to get the
Okay,
election.
sorry,
That's
so there was a
it.
proposal about second.
Seconded.
Yeah, so, all those in favour of that proposal? Anybody against? Any abstentions? So I think that is carried by majority.
To clarify, so coming off finance now and then waiting till May to,
So my understanding is there's no change.
Right,
until
okay.
May.
Right.
Not so everybody remains on the committee that they were until May.
Fine.
Except that councillor Blackman's.
Yeah, so that's,
People are entitled
yeah,
to
so
resign.
off finance and then we'll look at the new ones in May, fine.
Thank you.
Wouldn't stake through the heart rate.
Perfect.
If you're short on numbers, I'm happy to go into governance for the meeting. If you're short on quorum.
It's helpful to have more, but perhaps if the approach is to wait for the annual meeting, that should be.
Yeah, if you're short quorum, but if you're not, it's fine.
The next item on the agenda is the motion requesting explanation of MK Milton Keynes City Council's position on funding of Bletchley Centre leisure lift. And there is some information in your pack from pages 35 to 38. So just to check, am I going straight for the motion, or is there anything that the officers wanted to say in relation to this before we do that? Go straight to.
No, I
Yeah.
think so. Both John and I have discussed this motion with councillor Blackman in advance, and it's a matter for the council. We have nothing to say about it.
So, councillor Blackman, I think that you've got 3 minutes to talk about your motion. Thank you.
Sure. I think I'm not going to read out what was already there. Everybody's had the opportunity to read it. But my concern was the whole process of the lift at Bletchley Leisure Centre has been covered up, and I don't mean in a disrespectful way, but the truth and the openness has not been transparent. And I think Milton Keynes Council have a duty to tell the residents what happened and explain fully why they have not been able to fund it. For 6 years, they have not been able to repair the lift, having previously stated that they couldn't fund it. And now they're saying they can fund it. And I think we're entitled to know, and our residents are entitled to know why. I've never used the leisure centre and haven't used the lift. But I'm not disabled and it's not a problem for me, but it is a problem for anyone in a wheelchair. Anyone with mobility issues trying to get from one of those second floor levels down, trying to get through them is a problem and has been a problem. I think we as a council have not forced it through, and the money was there, they chose not to use it. I was going to present some video evidence, but circumstances don't allow me to do that. But Councillor Legg and the Director of Service made a decision not to prioritise the money for the lift. Instead, they prioritised 135,000 into 17 projects that they deemed a greater priority than access for disabled people. And that was against the legislation that goes with that. And I think it's really, really poor that the council took that approach and that they turned away. And I just think they do need to give an explanation of how now it can be funded, yet for 6 years it couldn't be funded. This is not extra money coming in. This is money that they've had. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members who wish to make a comment or a question at this stage? Keith?
As Ray knows, I opposed the previous motion that Ray put up on the basis that I agreed its content, but not its tone. However, the tone of this particular motion has completely changed, and it's a factual request now, as I see it, and therefore I support the motion on this because of the tone of it. Is I agree. I think the necessity for it is debatable, because I think we've had all the information that you're now requesting by one means or another. I accept fully that this motion will bring together all the information in one lump. Therefore, on that basis, I would like to see the motion withdrawn by Ray. But if he doesn't wish to, I will still support it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other members wish to come in?
I'd like to thank Ray for bringing it to the attention of the council, because most of us wouldn't have known it hadn't been working for all those years, because we don't use it, you know. I used it years ago when I had visitors, and I always thought it worked forever, you know. So if you had brought it to the attention, it may not be getting all this new money, all this money is coming through, and what they are going to do with the leisure centre, I think will be a massive improvement.
Any other comments? Sorry?
Mine is, yeah, I'm with Keith on his stance there, but and also that it was raised, which I think is really, really good. I don't think it would have got to this point if you hadn't raised it, Ray. But I also think there's also time to draw a line in the sand after that. That there's the funding now. It's going to be repaired. The leisure centre is going to be revamped up with the new funding that Bletchley communicated last week. So, it's good that you've done it, but it's time to move on then.
I agree. I'm not sure the value that it adds pushing this agenda. I think we've got to the position where we've got the funding, it's going to be repaired. Should we not be putting our efforts on looking forwards and forming a better relationship, as opposed to potentially causing harm to any future relationship that we have by kind of rocking a ship that's already sailed? Yeah.
Any other questions? Justin and then Ish.
I think that the broken facilities can be anything in the community, but what I forecast is, okay, if we have a funding, maybe existing funding to fix it, that's fine. But how to make that facilities, carry forward in working in a healthy condition? Because what I see is, okay, if we have funding to fix that issue, but if mismanagement still continues for the future, when I still cannot make a commitment to make every facilities available for usage, so that that thing will be carried forward and makes up to have continue to push budget to fix it. But the root cause is how we manage the facilities in a good way so that maintaining in a good condition. And I think it's some sort of quality assurance issue. So I think I hope the ward councillor can also bring this issue for the vendor to have the awareness that how to keep the service quality ongoing. Yeah.
Okay. Ish.
Yeah, just reading through the motion, they're all relevant questions in terms of, you know, what was previously stated to not be political, you know, what changed essentially. But I mean, my question would be, you know, have these questions been put through to Milton Keynes City Council already on a separate sort of basis as a councillor, or, you know, from residents, and if there's been any responses, and if it is appropriate at this time to be making this sort of a statement without individuals asking that question first. I mean, if there wasn't any response to residents, then yeah, it'd probably be more justified if the council was making a more formal statement or asking these questions more formally. But yeah, it's whether or not that's been done.
I can answer that question. I've been to questions at the council chamber and asked the questions. They're all on the internet and accessible. The last one was September, I believe. And I've asked the questions. I've had, under freedom of information requests, I've put that in as well. I've had returns that have come redacted. I've had things, comments that have come back and said, we can't provide that information. And Councillor Legg, when I questioned him, his comment was on grounds of commercial sensitivities and legal advice. He'd been told that it wasn't in his interest to answer it. Now, I accept that there might be commercial sensitivities, but not on a contract that has long passed. And so I've tried to get the questions answered. I've gone to meetings. I've submitted Freedom of Information Act, and they haven't come through. When I raised the motion was for exactly that, for that information to come back to council, and it didn't come back.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I think I just if just to kind of build on the question that Ish asked,
Please. My understanding is, the chair, you're here to facilitate the conversation.
Sorry, I'm a councillor as well, and I've not actually had my opportunity to speak, and I am able to have a question. And actually, it is the chair that decides what happens in this meeting.
I understand that.
Sorry, I don't need advice from you. I will receive advice from the clerk. Thank you. I'm going to ask you a question. Why, just to build on Ish's question, which is why do you feel that this motion needs to be done by this council when there are scrutiny processes and democratic processes at Milton Keynes Council that any resident can avail themselves of? So I just think before the council makes its decision, it should understand that.
Okay, I believe this council should make it. This council represents the residents of Bletchley, and it's the Bletchley residents that have been affected by it. And we've tried to ask questions, or I've tried to ask questions that have been raised at council by me, and they've not been answered adequately. And some bits have come through. We've had comments from councillors, we've had emails from councillors, we've had freedom of information back that have bits. It's not our job to put together a jigsaw to create a full picture. I'm simply asking that this council asks, can we have a full explanation of why we can fund it now and why couldn't we fund it in those 6 years before?
Okay. So there is, if nobody else wants to come in, there is a proposal and it is seconded. We will go to the vote. Okay, so all those in favour of the motion? 2, 3. All those against the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Anybody abstaining? So that motion is carried by majority. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a proposal to adopt the use of the style of mayor and deputy mayor in the place of chair and vice chair of the town council. This is a proposal that is put forward by myself and the vice chair of the council. This, under the Local Government Act 1972, section 2456, the council of a parish which is known as a town shall be entitled to the style of town council, and the chairman and vice chairman of the council shall be entitled to the style of town mayor and deputy town mayor. If the council wishes to do this, then a resolution needs to be made at a meeting. And the background to this is that we were created in 2001. The civic head of the town council has been styled as the chairman since that point. I think that a number of people have said that they find it really kind of confusing, and they ask for an explanation of what is the difference between a chair and a mayor. Certain councillors at Milton Keynes Council actually refer, particularly the ones with an affinity to Bletchley, who actually represent Bletchley. They are concerned that Bletchley, as the largest town in Milton Keynes, actually has less civic standing than other towns in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford. So I think also over the last 4 years, we've really worked hard on civic awards and building up, trying to have a recognisable civic identity with our local community. So I think this proposal is about putting us on an equal footing with the other historic towns in Milton Keynes, and also it's about influencing, changing our organisation, thinking of the future and creating a role that people will aspire to have. I don't know if any members have any questions or comments they'd like to make. Amy.
The other towns might be smaller, but they're one town.
Yeah.
Bletchley is one town, so are you going to ask West Bletchley as well and work together to have one mayor over one Bletchley?
Yeah, so in terms of I will ask for advice from the clerk, but my understanding of the Local Government Act, that particular item, is that for the purposes of this act, the town is Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, not what existed prior to Milton Keynes coming. So what West Bletchley do is of no consequence or impact to us at all.
Is that some sort of joke?
No, I think that it's correct that in terms of the decision about the style that is to be adopted is a matter for each individual council. So this council was set up as a town council, and therefore this council is entitled to determine whether its chair should be styled as a chair or styled as a mayor. West Bletchley Council is able to make its own arrangements. As at the moment, it isn't a town council. Firstly, it would have to change its name to either a town or a community council, and then it would be able to change its name to mayor. But so they would be able to do that. So in terms of the law, it's correct that each council is responsible for its own decision about styles. But I hear the point that you're making about the town.
Yeah. I personally,
divisive.
so what is I think I agree with you. I think it's divisive at the moment. I think it would be one council. It would be much better if there was one council, but we don't have the ability to kind of make that change. And I think, that's something that we cannot do. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment? Councillor Blackman.
I think the idea is fine. I think it's got great merit to it. Having said that, hadn't thought from the same way Councillor O'Rourke had said, and I do think there's an issue from Councillor O'Rourke's point. I think he's right to raise that. My issue is with the wording, really, the wording of the motion, and in particular, the sentence that concerns me is a number of residents, partner organisations and councillors have suggested that the town council should be adopting the titles town mayor and deputy mayor. Now, there's no body of evidence again. There's another motion coming forward that doesn't have any substantial evidence to suggest that. That's just an anecdotal comment. A number of residents. When we do a public consultation, we're lucky to get 200 residents actually comment. So actually, these residents proposing that and coming up with that, I don't hear it. I haven't heard it. I obviously can't speak to everybody, but I don't hear anyone saying it. Partner organisations, if surely that's documented, we'll have evidence of partner organisations saying that's an idea. I don't see that. And as for councillors, if it's the councillors in here, I've never had a discussion or had anyone mention to me that we should be having a town mayor. And so I would suggest that if we are going to put that forward, that the wording is changed to be something on the grounds of members of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council are of the opinion that adopting the titles town mayor and deputy town mayor would better reflect the scale, history and identity of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford.
But I don't think there's a motion that contains that wording.
Sorry, do you want to go on?
Well,
In the report, you mean?
in the report, I think the report is the report, and I think the proposal is to pass the resolution that is in there. I think that wording in the report is not forming part of the motion, but I may have misunderstood that. I didn't write the report.
Okay.
But my understanding is that there are no recommendations from officers. The members who put forward this motion asked the council to consider it, and if they considered it was something worth doing, the resolution that would be passed would be the resolution that is in the final paragraph of the report. There isn't a motion about what people may or may not say.
I think your point that you're making around anecdotal feedback being included within this is not in the motion. It is background information. It has been said. I've had residents say it to me. I know that it's been said at council events. I've stood at council events. I've had people say it to me. I know that it's also come back through the officer team. I think I've answered your point. Anybody else want to make a comment? Ed.
I think it's actually a really interesting debate and discussion just around, because it's about what is our status as a town council and what is how are we seen from residents and the business community and other organisations, but also wider field. And I take the point around the issue around West Bletchley. I'm not quite sure there's an easy answer to that, but I think they would benefit in some ways from us having these titles, because actually one of the things that happens with mayors and stuff, and I'm not a big fan of titles. I've never been a fan of titles. I'm more interested in actually just getting stuff done and doing what we need to do. I'm not that sort of person. I would hate to be mayor of Milton Keynes and having to wear chains and doing all that sort of stuff. I just would never want to do that. But I think the idea of this is actually quite important, because I think it gives that extra identity to the town. And when you look at like some of the town mayors, they sometimes invite other mayors to their events, and actually it's missing from some of that. So if Leighton Buzzard's having an event, they might invite mayors of Waving Sounds, Wolverton, etc. But whereas Bletchley, we're actually our nearest town, one of the nearest towns to them. And so I think it puts Bletchley and Fenny Stratford on the map a bit better. And I think also we've got to look at what do the next 5-10 years look like in terms of the local area and where we are. We have got a huge potential in terms of some of the East West Wales stuff coming forward, but also being at that crossroads in terms of the West Coast Main Line and East West Wales and Universal Studios. Actually, let's just lift it up a bit, and I think it just gives us a bit more civic pride in this area. That said, if we didn't change it, I wouldn't say it's the end. I wouldn't think it's the end of the world if we didn't do it. But I think it's a nice thing to do, and I'll probably be faithful for it.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Yeah, I'm very similar. So mine's about performing civic duties and sort of ceremonial duties. I think having a mayor raises our profile as a council as well, more visible. I think, yeah, either way, but I think it's a good thing. And I get the West Bletchley thing as well. I totally get that. I didn't think about that one. That's a good point.
Keith.
I'll throw my hat in the ring, but I'm not in favour of it. I mean, why stop at mayor? Why not call yourself? I want to have a president. You know, we've got some
Not
good.
allowed to in the legislation.
No, we've got some good presidents around. We've got Putin, we've got Trump. I mean, why stop there? No, but seriously, we've been in recent years. We've been pulled up by our shoelaces from the pits that we were when we had some chairs. I think, Eamon, it was about 2008, something around there, and that was a really low spot. Since then, and I would particularly say in the last 10 years, we have recovered to a position of substance. That's been done through chairs, vice chairs, and other people within this council, but also primarily, don't forget the officer team, because that's been led by someone that I consider to be excellent at the job that they've done. I know that Ethan's already done this. Thank you for Delia, but I think she deserves a tremendous amount of credit for how this council has been turned around. Now that's been done with a chair, not a mayor. Why do you need a mayor? We've done all that, or that has been done. That has been done in our name by a chair and vice chair. So why go to the trouble of saying, right, we'll have a mayor now, when all the change and all the improvements have been done when we've had a chair? So I would vote against that, and I would stick with a chair. Sorry, Ed.
Thank you. And any other comments? Ed? Thank you very much.
I don't like to take a lot of time, but I think it's very important. Lots of different towns I visited, and I've been, come from Wycombe. I see all the small town councils have their own mayors, and actually they're put live into in the meetings, and put live into local activities. When you're being a mayor or somebody else want to be a mayor, and the activities in the town, will get better, and you get, you present Bletchley Council to different event, and that will make a profile better. I will vote for you.
Ron.
Yeah, I'm on the same lines as Cuban Ed, because I don't like titles, never have done, never will do. I like medals and pats on the back. Never have like that sort of thing. I can see where people are coming from to raise a profile. And as Keith said, in the last 10 years with Delia and some of the new councillors, we've worked hard to bring us from down here to up here. And I know we want to move further up, but do we need to change, or is it just to make us look better? Is it a necessary? And also, so if you have a mayor, then you have a deputy mayor, then he'll have to wear a chain. So you have two people out wearing chains. Because all deputy mayors have got a chain. Okay. So it just goes on and on and on. And in the near or distant future, when some of us older ones are gone, you'll have other people in that might not be in the same mindset as the rest of us, who make the council totally stupid.
It's just
I'm not good at vocabulary, but the thing is, what is the significance of changing the name? If this is a compliance or legal concern, then fine, we have to stick to it. But after changing the name, all the role and responsibility and everything is remains unchanged. So what is the significance to get a change? Please.
See, yeah, I agree with most of the people or that they've said, but what I'm looking at is from that perspective of credibility and where our town council or our town, that's Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, is moving. So for the future, yes, it would give us credibility to be having a mayor and a deputy mayor.
Ed.
I thank you for letting me come in again, and I think I just want to just come back on Keith's point. Because actually, I think it's a really important point. Actually, the naming actually doesn't change the governance process in terms of actually the governance of how the council operates in terms of chairing meetings and the relationship with the chair or the mayor has with the clerk and ministers. None of that governance structure changes, so that stuff could have been achieved under the mayor or the chair. And for me, it's just around that civic pride bit, and it's just given that additional name to the surrounding areas. And if we don't change it, I'm not going to cry over it. But I just think it's just that little bit of benefit, but I don't think it changes how we operate as a council in terms of the day-to-day run of the council.
Thank you. I think this has been a final one.
We did fixing the links. I coined the phrase the Berlin Wall. I didn't expect it to actually become one. Okay, East and West Berlin.
So just to come back on a few of those points, actually, I see events where people like Woburn Sands, Olney, Newport Pagnell, they're invited to, and this council isn't. And I think local schools or other kind of organisations locally, we found that they understand what a chair of a meeting is, but they don't know what it signifies in terms of a council. Actually, when I've come to Newton Lees School and walked with them on their remembrance walk, and they've got the chains on, they to them, their parents say that's the mayor. And so actually what we're doing, what the proposal is about, is just helping people to actually understand what the role is. And we're doing all of these other things around civic pride. It's actually just to support that. And I think if you look at all of these other councils, Woburn Sands, 3,675 people, Olney, 6,598 people, Newton Pagnell, Newport Pagnell, 15,586, Wolverton and Greenleys, 14,493. These are all places that are much smaller than us, and they are doing this. We want to, as far as I'm concerned, we are like the biggest town in Milton Keynes, and we should be kind of setting the agenda. I get your point about West.
I just wanted to know what East and West Newport Pagnell, East and West.
Sorry, I get your point about West Bletchley and Bletchley and Fenny Stratford being two different council areas. I don't think that we're going to see them reunited in the time frame that we are all going to be as councillors. A decision was made, and it has been like that for the last 25 years. I don't think it's changing, and there's nothing that we can do to influence that. This is something that we can influence. Did anyone else want to come in, or we'll go to the vote? Okay, so the motion that I'll read out to you again is that in accordance with section 245(6) of the Local Government Act 1972, the council hereby adopts the titles Mayor of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford and Deputy Mayor of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford for the civic head and deputy civic head of the town council with immediate effect. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? So that is carried by majority.
Sure that had it recorded now.
Yes.
Okay. It's the next item on the agenda. We'll go to item 10, which is pages 45 Is that right? 244?
It's data.
Yeah.
It's data. It's all there.
And this is parking enforcement data from Milton Keynes City Council. Is there anyone who's speaking to this?
It's for noting, and if you want to discuss next steps or what anything to do, but it is data
There's
we've
no
been given.
motion, there's no motion
there.
on the agenda.
Just a quick one. There's dates on there, and I haven't got and I'll try to go through it. Is that the day they entered it into the system? Was that the date they were actually giving tickets out?
So the date, so if you look at the top one, so Albert Street, the date,
Yeah,
that's the way it is, that's February, that's the date they were there.
they're actually there. Okay.
Yeah, and the time that they issued, start and finished, and it's issued in that time frame there.
Yeah, so when they go into a street, they have to say they're in the street, it logs what
And they
time
log
they're in
in.
the street,
Yeah.
what time they're.
I think there was some sort of dated field.
Yeah. Are there any comments or questions in relation to this? Councillor Blackman.
Yeah, I have to say, it's, in my own mind, it's data for data's sake. It's 100% accurate, but 100% useless. And if Milton Keynes and Saba, or whoever the company is that done it, are using this as a management tool, then they need shooting, every single one of them. It's absolutely atrocious. The collection of data has loads of things where no one visited.
1 second.
Can I just say that the reason that this item is on the agenda is because members have asked for this data, which is shared with West Bletchley Council and which members have been very keen to have sight of. I completely agree that it's not particularly valuable, but I have gone some lengths to get it, which wasn't easy, and it's on the agenda for noting. I completely agree, it isn't in itself. It isn't very valuable because you need more information around it to be able to interpret it and to draw any conclusions from it. So it's on the agenda for noting. If you wish to have it reported on a regular basis, either to full council or to the Environment Committee, it can be reported. But otherwise, we'll continue to collect it. We'll keep it in our records, but it has no intrinsic, as far as I can see, I completely agree, it has no intrinsic value on its own whatsoever.
Okay.
And my point is, with what I was saying was that it doesn't have any value because nobody's actually compiling it or using it. No management company would be using that list of where people have walked and how long does it take them to walk it, because it just doesn't tell them anything. It's not covering the key issues of parking enforcement. They're not learning from it. There's no guidance of where there are hotspots. And if you analyse it deeper, and I threw it into AI and it came out with a few bits of information, which I haven't been able to corroborate, but it's just riddled with problems. Now that list in itself, if you want to sit down and analyse it, but somebody must be doing that in Milton Keynes. Somebody must be looking at that data and saying, right, from here, what we're understanding is nobody's visiting. So Denmark Street, which is very close to me, and is a major problem with parking on pavements and double yellow lines, had one visit in 11 months. What value is that? And the busiest area is Queensway, and at times they're there for 3 minutes and they don't nick anybody. Who actually looked at that and dealt with it? It's certainly not coming from Milton Keynes Council, and it's certainly not coming from Saba, and that's why Bletchley residents have a problem with parking, because data, just a pile of data, 100% useless.
Sorry, any other comments or questions? Was there any proposals that people want to make? Or we're just happy to note this information?
No, Chair.
Well, can we ask Milton Keynes or Saba to provide us with the data that they manage the business by? Yeah. I've got to say, had I had more notice on this, with a week or so, I could come up with some serious.
I was asked to obtain the data, which is being shared at West Bletchley Council with West Bletchley Council. That's what I've done. I've obtained it. I've shared it with you. I don't know what Milton Keynes Council use it for. I don't know why West Bletchley Council requested it. I think it was on the basis that I wanted to know how many tickets were being issued over the course of a month. And that data doesn't provide that information. It doesn't tell you how many tickets are being issued. And as Councillor Blackman says, it also tells you where people are not issuing tickets. I mean, we can ask John.
Can ask, yeah.
What you want
Yeah, do
to
it.
ask, but whether they'll share it or not, I don't know.
So,
Just not give it, yeah.
Yeah.
so can you be clear on what the proposal is, please?
Well, I guess my proposal would be, can we have some, the data in a form that we can manage and evaluate?
Can I argue what you can do that here? From someone that processes raw data as part of my job, the raw data is here. Are you asking them to provide you with the analysis or data that can be processed?
How they're managing it. Yeah, how are Milton Keynes managing it?
That's a completely different question. You're asking for data in which can be processed.
Yeah.
This is it. This is everything that you need to process it.
We can't process it in that format. About going through 3,500 lines and then comparing line 1 with line 28 or whatever it is.
But that's data. I think, are you asking for summarised? Are you asking for a report or?
Yeah, I guess I'm asking for summarised or and I would pass to you because that's your field, obviously. It's about managing raw data.
I manage data, but yeah, it depends what outcome do you want to see. So you can analyse this data in
how I don't know it's 100% right and 100% useless.
I think for me, I think for me the issue is that it doesn't. It tells you the tickets that have been issued and it tells you activities, units of activity that have happened by individual civil enforcement officers, but it isn't telling you what their standards are, how they're deployed, where they're deployed, when, why, how that's working, and that data is never going to provide that.
No. So I think that's a different question. It's a completely different, yeah.
I think that might be what Councillor Blackman's driving at.
Well, I am just saying that, you know, there's a CEO on here, 8136, who they all need to be 8136 because he does more tickets than anybody else. And there are people out there that aren't doing any tickets and they're visiting the same streets. They're visiting the same streets sometimes within minutes of each other.
Yeah. Thank you. My phone uses me title now. We've resolved the position. So now, I completely get what you're saying. Actually, data tells you something, but it's only as good as how it's presented. I think actually what the point you're trying to aim at is to have a bit of an understanding of how that enforcement happens. Now, I can probably guess why there's one person does all of them, because if they're out on a free, then one of them, it might only be one of them signed into the device, so that could be the person who tends to be doing the device. I don't know, but I don't know that. That's and I don't think any of us know exactly what their operation is. But I do wonder, a question that could be asked, if the council wanted to, would be, it would be useful to maybe just have a presentation or something from the city council and the contractor about how they go about doing their enforcement. For example, the reasons why they might have to have 3 enforcement officers in some town, and how they make decisions on a daily basis of where to go and what are the challenges around. How long do they have to wait before they can put a ticket on? When they're out there and they're waiting, somebody moves their car quickly, so you don't necessarily get the enforcement, but you do get the positive action of actually someone's moved their car. So enforcement officers, whilst they may not issue a ticket, they still drive a behaviour change when they're visible and they're there. So there are some different things there, and I just wonder whether just generally maybe we could have something we could ask, maybe it's just something around the approach to enforcement, what happens on the ground when officers say. We know parking issues are often come up, and actually would be useful for us as an individual councillors, but as a body to understand how those processes work. Does that sound reasonable?
I think that's really useful. I think also I would add to that list. When we had the conversations about the parking strategy, there was consultation about alternative enforcement methods or additional enforcement methods, which actually might be more of a deterrent than what they are. But I mean, you still got to get a ticket on a car in order to use those things. But I think it would be good to have a revisit of that. Justin, did you want to come back in?
I think the base data only show you how the ticket has been issued, but I think we will need periodically, we need some parameters to analysis, like how many enforcement has been done during the past 12 months, how many man hours of the traffic wardens or police has it put on the society on executing the enforcement. I mean, the hours they put or the man days they put, the number of people they put, is it proportional to the ticket that issue? That, I mean, what I mean is to put more parameters in it so that we can have a comparison. How is related to, or have the past year data. I mean, say how, for example, last year, how many traffic women has been going into town, and planned this year, how many traffic put into town? Is it the ticket number proportional for the current month? So I think we need some parameters put in, and then so that we can get what are going to improve based on the data. What has to be improved? I think there is more meaningful for the statistic.
Okay. Craig, and then we'll go.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is determine what do we want the data to show us first. So this is data that the team compiled because we asked them to, and it's related to sum of notices issued. So this data is only useful in that context. How many tickets have been issued in this area? We can't use this data for anything else. So what we can't do is go and say, can we have data? There's lots of it. I think we need to be very specific around what we want to achieve out of getting that data, and then being very specific with what we ask for. So we can't go and ask for more data unless we have a very specific purpose for it. Much like this is a very specific purpose. The ask was probably how many tickets have been issued.
Thank you.
Would it be helpful to invite the head of highways to come and talk about enforcement and the approach to enforcement and how they do it, and then members could ask their own questions?
Yeah.
Would it be helpful to have also armed with that sort of presentation to go about the approach to enforcement?
Councillor Blackman, I'm not sure whether that was a firm proposal that you were making, and whether, if it was, whether you were happy to accept some of the things that Ed has suggested in that. So
Ed's suggestions are superb.
okay. So did we get what it was?
Invite the head of highways.
Presentation. Okay. So that seconded? Yeah. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay. We now go on to the final item of the agenda, which is item 11, Sycamore Buildings project update. I do believe that this is tabled.
It's actually, because I've been looking for information even today, it is on the screen, but I'm going to speak to it rather than present you with anything that's been written. So that first slide is just a reminder of, I just did this out of interest today, the milestones that we've gone through with the Sycamore Buildings project back from March 2021, when we had the problem with change of use of the library and we didn't have a meeting with them anymore, and everything we've been through since then till January this year, where we've actually got a contract signed and we're starting on site. And I was just thinking, this project feels like it's been going on for a really long time, and indeed it has been going on for a long time, because we started thinking about it in March 2021. Anyway, since the last meeting of council, if you want to move on, Kate, since the last meeting of council, where it was agreed that the contract would be signed subject to successful pre-contract meetings, and that Alison would draw down the loan once the contract was signed. We have, as officers, we've been working with the contractor, Spacemaker Developments. We've had successful pre-contract meetings, and we have completed the contract. The final contract sum is 1.6 million. You can see the exact figure up there, which includes the 2% Pagabo fee and provisional sums of 47,000 for some issues that are yet to be determined. The contract was signed by Councillor Kelly Wilson and Councillor Reilly on behalf of the council, and we're now working towards a start on site date of the 26th of January next week. A leaflet drop to surrounding stakeholders is starting tomorrow, and we will also be putting more information on the website about the project starting from tomorrow. And our practical completion date is 35-week build. So the aim for practical completion is the 21st of August 2026. So we've done what we were delegated to do at the last meeting. If we can move on to the next slide. So there will be, going forward, there will be some contract variations without a doubt, because there always are in projects of this sort. And at the moment, that sum of £47,000, which is included in the contract sum for provisional sums, has been set aside. It's I mean, I can give anyone who wants to see it a breakdown of those sums, but it includes, those are some examples on the slide of the sort of things that are included within that £47,000. So, you know, we talked in the past as a steering group about possible changes to the toilets. We've had some issues with the colours for battleboard panels that are going to go in the chamber. There were some things like cleaning of brickwork in the multi-use hall that haven't been permitted. So there's £47,000 included in the contract sum for those potential variations to contract. But any decisions that are made on those type of contract variations will be made in the normal way through a discussion with the steering group, which will then make a recommendation to either full council or finance and governance, depending on which month we're in, exactly as we have done previously with the decisions that have been being made about how the project should be moved forward. So none of those decisions have been taken, but they're the sort of decisions that we will be thinking about. One interesting one is this renovation, potential renovation of the groundwood floor in the hall. The actual contract allows for covering the floor in the multi-use hall with vinyl, but it's transpired that there remains the groundwood floor in the hall, and we don't know why that was painted over, but it might be worth exploring whether it could be renovated, because it's actually a really nice feature if it's still in a fit condition. So we have suggested that might be something the council want to do. There are some specific items that I need to seek rectification for tonight. Since the big thing that came out of pre-contract discussions before we signed the contract concerned the asbestos survey on the building. We had an asbestos survey done way back when, some years ago. And it transpired that it was incomplete with regards to the roof, and this was picked up by our contractor, and we went back to the provider who'd done the asbestos survey, and they've now done a second survey, acknowledging that the original survey had been incomplete, and they did this at a reduced rate. And it's transpired that there is some asbestos in the roof, unfortunately. So the original plan was to strip the entire roof, and that's what's included in the contract, to strip the entire roof. But the entire roof, because there is some asbestos in the roof, the entire roof will now have to be treated as though it's contaminated with asbestos, which will add a considerable amount to the contract. The figure I've been given, and it's very much a ballpark, is in the region of £20,000. The alternative to not stripping that asbestos out is to leave it in and encapsulate it in some way. But there are pros and cons to both courses of action. Obviously, the con with taking it all out is the expense. But the con with leaving it in is that some of that asbestos is likely to be wet. We've had leaks through the roof because the roof's never been found since we took the building on. And, you know, I think as a council, we need to understand what the implications are of having wet asbestos encapsulated and how it might affect things in the future with the maintenance of the building long term. So that is an additional cost that I wanted to make you all aware of tonight. We're waiting for more information and quotations about what we need to do about that particular additional cost. But that was really the only significant issue of great significance that came out of the pre-contract negotiations. We've also had 2 items of expenditure that I have been dealing with the project manager and principal designer on. One of which is provision of insurance. We obviously had to provide insurance for the works to be done to secure our position as a contractor, as the owner, and Alison has negotiated with Zurich about appropriate insurance, and the sum that you see there, £3,379.58, is the cost of the insurance that we need to. That's the cost of the cover that we need to ensure that the work is we're properly covered. So we have actually made the arrangements to put that insurance in place. We have no alternative but to go with Zurich because they are our buildings insurance. So that's going ahead even as we speak. Obviously that needs to be in place by the time we start on site on the 26th. And then finally, there's another piece of work which I'm asking you to ratify tonight, and that concerns National Grid connection works. In the original contract, there was some electrical work, and it included some trench work. And this is about providing the new supply that we're going to need for the building going forward. However, once the contractor was appointed, it became clear that there were difficulties with the design. There were difficulties for that contractor with providing a design that was suitable and that would meet the specification of the National Grid. And in order to de-risk the project, it was considered more important to have the National Grid do all the work rather than just part of the works which were previously included in the contract. So the National Grid connection work will cost the sum that is on that on the slide, which is £11,788.24, but there will be a saving which will come from the main contract, because that trenching work that was originally going to be done by FD through their contract will not be done, so there will be a saving, but the saving will not be £11,788.24. It was never going to be, because there is some work that is not contestable. In other words, nobody can do it except National Grid. So we have to use National Grid to do that part of the work, and that is the vast majority of the work. So I would like to ask you tonight if you can ratify approval of those expenses which we've actually put on the bank. Because we need to get that approved so that we can crack on and de-risk the project. I'm happy to answer any questions about any of that, or to answer any questions about how we work going forward. We could just perhaps move on to the last slide before we do any questions. So I just wanted to clarify that we'll be proceeding in the same way as we've proceeded before. Corvinda AB, our architect, is the designated principal designer and project manager for the project, although obviously he's working with the design team with experts from different organisations. The contract programme is set. The contract is very clear and all the designs and everything are clear, and no changes can be made to any element of the contract or the work that is to be done without the documented architect's instruction. So that's how any changes can be through the contractors, the design team talking to Culvinda talking to the council, and us agreeing that we want to make any changes. And that goes through with a documented architect's instruction. The council's intention is to appoint a single point of contact to be supervised by the new town clerk, to keep communications between the council and the principal designer and all of the parties clear. So that is something which the Employment Policy Committee have been working on arrangements for, and that will be put in place at the end of this month. The finance manager will also be involved in the contract management and liaison and between the different parties and the council through managing cash flow and all payments and keeping on top of the insurance and all that kind of thing. So Alison will also be involved, but we think it's very important to keep, because there are a lot of people involved in this contract, and we think it's really important to manage the contract effectively and to have effective reporting to the council, is that we don't have too many officers involved in day-to-day discussions between different parties, because there are so many people involved. It's already beginning to feel as though there could be duplication of work and miscommunication. So that's just an update on where we are at the moment. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any members have any comments or questions?
With the asbestos, I think the best thing to get rid of it now and get it out of the way.
My personal viewpoint as well.
It's only going to cause us
It's
problems.
only going to cause problems in the future.
I think if we got rid of it in the future, it would cost us more than 20 grand.
You do all this work, might as well just do it.
So, members happy for this? Oh, sorry, Ish.
And just for that £20,000, was that a budget figure quoted by the consultants? Was that a quotation that we received?
We haven't had any quotations for it yet. We haven't had the quotations. It's just ballpark figures plucked out of the air by our contractor to say it's likely to be at least in the region of this amount. But we are seeking, obviously, quotations.
Okay, so with regards to this, thank you.
Yeah, it's reachable.
Right, so I think that do you want to come in on this particular point, Richard? I take it. No. Okay. Bye.
Hi, yeah, sorry, sorry for my late arrival, everybody. I've just come back from my meeting in London, so I've just joined now. I didn't actually hear anything, so I'll miss out on this one and then move on to the next.
Okay, we're on the final item, talking about asbestos in the roof, and I think it's been suggested that it will cost circa £20,000 to fix. I think that in the room, everybody's of the view that we have all of the asbestos in the roof removed. So perhaps if we kind of do that one first, because I think what we probably want to do is make the proposal that we do this, but actually for the firm quote to come back and to be agreed and delegated.
But it'll need to be approved because of the amount of money it is. It's beyond any officer's signing authority, and the steering group has no signing authority. So it will have to come back to finance and governance.
So does it need to go to finance and governance?
Or to full council, yes. And you need to see a proper quote for it because that's very much ballpark. It's not a definite.
So I think at this point, the proposal.
It's for noting, and I think I'm guided, or we're guided by the fact that the general feeling at the moment is that it would be better to get rid of it all, but we need to see.
I think the proposal I would make is subject to the quotes. Our decision in principle is that we want the asbestos to be removed. Yes, so I have a seconder. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? I believe that is carried unanimously. The other two items I think that it's for ratification, unless somebody says so. I will take them as a block because they are both the decisions that have been made, and that we ratify the insurance premium, and we ratify the works that need to be done by National Grid. Does anybody want to comment on those before I do? Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? No. So that is carried unanimously as well. The time is 20:50. That is it for this evening's meeting. Thank you very much for joining us on time. Thank you.